Hello to everybody. Last week we had Marc Fonteijn, who was a great first host for this new series of webinars we're doing out of Dallas, but it's actually a virtual event that is reaching globally. We had some people all the way to Russia, Norway, and Chile. We're going to try to keep this at about 1 hour. Last week we actually went a bit long and went an hour and a half. We will discuss very quickly the panel. This is about education and service design today, formal and informal, and trying to give some guidelines to people actually looking into joining the service design discipline who are already doing service design and are trying to get better. So let's get started very quickly here. So first I will take you to our sponsors, Slalom, who's been with us for a couple of years. And we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing today without them, and also Precocity, who's been helping us as well with this virtual setup. Today we are going to be having just myself as well as Brandon and Christopher, who are going to be helping us set up this meeting. Those are the three co-founders of the Service Design Dallas chapters. Very quickly, I wanted to introduce Brenda. Brenda is joining us as the communication social media chair. She's going to be helping us getting the word out and reaching out to the community. And obviously, we have a lot of content coming up the next 5 weeks. Also, I wanted to point out that this event is recorded. If you have not seen Marc's interview last week, it is available on YouTube. You can look for it and look for the Service Design Network Dallas chapter, and you can see Marc's interview. You will also be able to see this one probably tonight. Today, we're going to be having the welcome to our panel. We're going to be talking about very quickly our future upcoming guests and events, discussing the open Q&A guidelines. This is actually an open forum. I want you guys to be able to ask questions freely, but we have to moderate them or it will be a bit of a chaos. We'll have some high-level service design questions to our panel to ask what they think about trends and overall ideas about service design. And then we'll just jump into the next generation service designer education panel. And at the end, we'll have an open Q&A for all the attendees to ask specific questions. Just a quick reminder, we have only 1 hour, so we'll try to go as fast as possible. If we feel like we need to actually have another session about a particular topic, obviously we will do this in the future. So we have a lot of great content coming near you virtually. So we're kind of taking the opportunity of this lockdown to actually just bring you some different speakers. So last week we had Marc Fonteijn. On the 19th, we'll have Adam St. John Lawrence. On the 2nd of June, we'll have Jim Kalbach. And on the 25th, we'll have Andy Pauling. So we have some what we call the Master of Service Design series. Those are going to be interviews like last week with Marc. But we also have more specific topic events. So today we have obviously the next gen service designer. And on the 12th, we'll have Black Swan events. That is kind of an idea of how service design can help shape the future and not be so reactive to unforeseen conditions, such like this, the COVID-19. So we have a panelist of people who specialize in futurism, so to speak, and strategic foresight. Let's see. So quickly, how will I ask a question to the panel? So we have a Zoom chat window that you can actually access right now. Last week, it was very active. A lot of people were actively involved in the chat window, which made it a little bit difficult for our moderators to sort through the questions between yourselves and communication and actually discuss into the panel. So please, if you have a specific question to Mauricio or Jennifer or Colin or Marc, be pretty obvious in the chat window that this is a question for the panel to make it easier on Christopher, Brandon, and Brenda to kind of like, okay, that's a question that we have to ask at the end of the conversation, okay? If you have any issue, also you can reach out to Christopher, Brandon, and Brenda and ask them some private question. Hey, it's not working, I have some issues, and I try to work it out. So today is May the 5th, and we're going to be discussing the next generation service designer. And today we're going to have this wonderful panel. I thank all of you guys for being here with us today. We'll have Mauricio Manhaes from SCAD in Savannah, the Savannah School of College of Art and Design. He will be discussing the formal education aspect of service design. We also have Marc Fonteijn joining us from Netherlands. He will be discussing more care management, mentorship, how to build a portfolio around service design, which is not necessarily something that is being taught in a formal way at school. Actually, before you actually join SCAD, for example, amongst other schools, you are being asked to provide a service design portfolio, which is kind of counterintuitive because a lot of students don't have a portfolio to submit to the school before they actually learn service design. So Marc will discuss kind of like the soft skills, the mentorship, and the portfolio part of it. And then we jump to the practitioners. So Jennifer, who is joining us from Chick-fil-A, as well as Colin from Slalom in Seattle. They will discuss the soft skills, the stuff that you actually don't learn in school that are really crucial and vital for you to become a really good service designer as you walk out of school, or if you're already out of school and been kind of doing the service design. What are the skills that you need to kind of like add to your portfolio of skill sets? So that would be very useful for us to understand that part of the business, because we get a lot of questions around that. I finished school, I read the books, now what? And you're still missing kind of like a few things to discuss, like business acumen and strategy. So that would be our open forum and the structure we're gonna have today. But first, we're gonna kick it off with some easy questions as usual. So the panel is probably not completely prepared for this. So we're gonna have some very candid and blunt answer, hopefully. You guys ready?
Yep.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So we're gonna start with Marc. Marc, can you tell us about the current evolution of service design and how it will shape industries today and in the future?
Yeah, sure.
Easy question.
Easy question. Hi, everybody. Hi from the Netherlands in the evening. I won't take too much of your time. So to quickly answer this question, the biggest evolution I see right now is that I think we're developing a new language in service design. I think the language for the last 10, 15 years has originated from still a manufacturing-oriented mindset, still a product-oriented mindset. And what I'm seeing right now is that we're sort of introducing a different vocabulary, a vocabulary that is much more, originates much more from services, from maybe play, from theater, from things that aren't physical. So what I'm seeing is like the next wave of service design where there will be a different language, the tools and methods will be different, and also the mindset around how to deliver, and maybe even design services is going to transform.
Okay, if anybody has follow-up questions on this, feel free to ask in the chat room. And if we have time, we'll just reach out to Marc or anybody else on the panel to actually further that. Thank you so much, Marc. Next question will be to Mauricio. Mauricio, what do you think is the biggest challenge the service design field needs to tackle right now?
That's an interesting question. And I'll piggyback on what Marc said. So right now, given the pandemic's effects that we're suffering, I guess it's to be more present, right? This is the thing. We've been, as Marc mentioned, in the last 15, 20 years, collecting, curating approaches, people, knowledge, tools that would be very, very effective in this moment. And our challenge now is to reach out to people and present those ways of approaching such a complex situation that we can deal with, right? I guess Marc and Jennifer and Colin would agree. But we still have a kind of difficulty to talk to a broader audience and say, hey, there's a way to do this service, seeing things through a service perspective, the systems around, and we need to reach more people and show how can we help in this moment. This weekend, I just posted something that I even use the word frightening, because I see the moment and I see ways that we could actually help make this a turning point for all of us, all societies involved in this situation. And I'm afraid that things will get settled and we would not be able to contribute as much as we could. That's my, I guess, the biggest challenge of this moment. How can we contribute much more than we've been doing, expanding from our niche situation to the broad society, right? When you think about all these curbside and social distancing, all these arrangements, we could contribute to make it more meaningful and even steer the whole system or nudge the system towards a better path. But I'm afraid we will not be heard enough, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. Thank you so much for your answer. Let me switch now to Jennifer. Jennifer, specifically within service design, how do you build an environment that truly fosters creativity? Obviously, this is what you do. You've done it before. So tell us what you would recommend people who are fostering creativity in service design.
Yeah, the million-dollar question, right? Could probably spend days talking about this, right? And like all of our design initiatives, it's certainly nuanced based upon the group you're working with. But I think the two things that I tend to lean on that I've seen success in is really creating that environment of trust and really vulnerability within the team. And so it's not something you can do in 10 minutes, in an hour, that it really requires kind of that relationship building within that environment to really kind of create that safe space to help people feel supported, not judged, to be able to share those crazy off the wall ideas that they're having, right? These challenges that we're taking on in service design, they're hard problems, they're sticky problems, right? We wouldn't be taking them on if they weren't. And so it really, really helps to have that trusting environment where we can throw at those crazy ideas that, let's send people to the moon to help escape from coronavirus, whatever it might be, right? To help bring us back down to something that's more feasible back here on Earth, to speak very literally.
Very good. And that's a very big topic. We can probably just set up an entire segment on that. We will have Adam, who is a master facilitator, I believe in a couple of weeks, who is his craft is basically creating safe space, which is so difficult to achieve. So definitely we can talk about this again next time. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Last question for Colin this time. Something a bit more tactical, maybe. What recent tool or methodology do you think has had the biggest impact on how your team works and what you do create?
Thanks, and hi, everyone. So I'd say the biggest difference is not a specific methodology, but a focus on a particular part of the life cycle of something becoming an outcome from a strategy. This is from a lens of professional services, which I've been in for my entire career. Where most strategies fail is at the point where the business needs to fund it, potentially it gets a new business owner. Coming up from the production and the product side of things and really linking to the strategy, I think that design, what's really changed for my team is design playing a role in facilitation of creation of a business case that's beyond just an ROI calculation. It's something that you can physically touch, feel, that is being created by people who understand the process downstream. At Slalom, it's a big thing for us to take strategy into outcome and own that journey with the client. And so that space in the middle where it goes from great idea to funded thing that's being built is a really important focus point for us.
Great, that's really great. Yeah, thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate it. we are going to be jumping now into the education part, the panel. So just remind you that Mauricio will be discussing more the formal education because obviously he's the head of service design at SCAD. Marc will have more the approach of the mentorship offer. This is an open forum, so we're going to be kind of like following this approach. But obviously, if any of the four of you want to jump in, obviously just go ahead and feel free to jump into the topic. I'm going to kick it off very quickly by showing what does formal service design looks like right now. So if you are in high school looking into college, or if you are currently in a college and there is no service design program in your school, or if you're looking into maybe going back to school or getting a master in service design, this is what life looks like. So here, this is the SCAD service design program, and you can see the kind of classes they offer, and this is what your life looks like for the next 4 years, basically. And there is some really basic stuff, design 1, drawing 2. There's also some bit more contextual stuff like design of business, which is very interesting. And you also have some portfolio resume development, human-computer interaction. So this is what formal service design looks like right now. There are other schools in the US and obviously in Europe actually do service design, but SCAD is a very prominent program we have. Also, they have a master of service design. You can see here the kind of classes they offer again on a formal level. And one of the things that we are constantly being asked is, okay, I went to school, I read the books, now what? I feel like I'm still missing some sort of like informal education. And for example, if I look at the master degree over here and I see, for example, select one of the 3 options, and I see some classes that I wish were not options. I think that those classes should be all taken. That's my personal feeling about it. I'm sure that Colin and Jennifer probably agree with that. But something like information architecture for designers as well as sustainable practice in design probably should be both taken. But of course, there's only so much time. So based on this, I'm going to leave this up for a while, and I'm going to leave Mauricio tell us more about how his programs address formal education, and then from there we'll discuss maybe there are some lacking in schooling, and if we all feel that this is actually a very solid base, and if you have taken this program, you are in a very good shape to get started in the service design profession. Mauricio, tell us more about your programs.
Thank you for the introduction, Greg. Yes, so at first, just to put something in context, our students, both BFA and MFA, on average, well, before this situation, 2/3 of them got hired before graduation. So we have even before graduation, we have one of the highest employment rates at SCAD, and SCAD has one of the highest employment rates when compared to other universities. So our connection and interaction with companies, several companies, we have a department called SCAD Pro that nurture this relationship with companies, and when they graduate, even before graduate, they are kind of aligned and very much at speed to start working, right? The MFA program, which I'm the coordinator of, this structure, this new curriculum was developed by Professor Zinha Viladas and myself, and you can have concentrations in a more visual perspective, more business, and more kind of sustainability or social interests. So it's a very comprehensive program. If you pair this with all the 40 majors that SCAD offers and with electives, you can actually craft a very individual path for each one of the students. It's been successful in terms of the connection we have with companies, right? Things that we tend to push, and then I always tend to hear that, oh, things that they don't teach at school. Why they, of course, the students, when they graduate, most of the MFAs, they are switching gears. They had another background and they are entering the world of service design. And the BFAs, they are, anyway, BFAs, young adults. What you can expect is that they would lack the wounds, the scars, right? But in terms of knowledge, we tend to be very attuned to what the industry wants, and even moving forward. If you think about what Marc mentioned last event about the service dominant logic, right? This new way of seeing business, new way of interpreting markets from a systemic perspective. Our students are really well schooled about this, and we discuss at length. And it's, let's say, even now with the situation we're facing, this systemic approach to see markets as systems will be, at least we believe, and I guess the whole academic world is pointing toward this direction. If you imagine the papers that proposed the serve dominant logic are among the most cited academic papers of the century. So they are in some ways even 1 or 2 steps ahead of what the market is doing now, and which makes sense, right? You want them to be prepared for the next years in profession, not just schooled by what happened before.
Sure. So let's take a pause. And so Marc, Jennifer, and Colin, do you agree with what Mauricio is saying? Do you feel like the students coming out of school are well prepared, well equipped to actually start being productive in the service design space?
I'll go. I think that students coming out of school, it really depends on the organization that you're going to. First off, if it's an established design organization on an internal team, you're probably going to have a lot more support to grow into some of the areas of speciality that might be harder if you're doing it for professional services. I think there's a lot of value, though, in getting, Mauricio mentioned the scars. I think, I like to call it time in the chair. But, getting some of those scars, stripes, whatever, don't expect to come in and just be doing pure strategy. I think the people who are most dangerous at service design are the ones who have done something so much that they've built up a strategic mindset around it, and they can help guide people through processes. Your background means a lot, and the background and experience you have means a lot. That's not to say that you can't be a service designer out of school, especially if you're working as part of an established team. But I would caution people to think that, oh, I'm just going to go and tell the business leaders of the world how it is, and that's going to be accepted for anyone who's coming into the field.
Yeah. No, and let me just echo this, because it's a humbleness thing, right? The business I've been run for 20 years. You can't just go there and say, "Oh, I saw the light and I know what to do now." It's more complex than this. But this is one of also elements that we bring to our students. Their constant interaction with companies tend to teach them how to deal with this and be very, in a way, humble. And when they start, but Colin, I completely agree with you with this perspective that I know the tools, right, and I know how to do it now. The tools are not important. Right? The mindset to acquire as I said, the scars or the chair time, as you said, right? It's what makes sense of give meaning to the tools. I always say, it's not about doing a blueprint. if you know how to do a blueprint, you just know what tool. A tool is nothing. Why you are doing a blueprint, what's going to be there, how this blueprint will support the discussions that you have with different types of stakeholders.
Yeah,
and this is something.
I think what started this conversation originally is that I'm going to say 98% of the people actually do service design right now have been doing so. They just stumble upon it. Me included, Colin, I know for sure, and Mark as well. Nobody actually had a formal education of service design. We just kind of like, we're doing UI, UX, creative, some sort of design, or even research or engineering. And we just fell into service design, right? We read the books, we listened to the podcast, we kind of like learn on the job, and we are doing okay. But now there's a new page. There's actually our schools now, we actually train people to become service designers, and those, as Colin was pointing out, they don't have that 10, 15, 20 years experience of doing something. They just went to school and they learned service design academically. And to Colin's point, they may actually be lacking that kind of like real life experience that we all do currently as service designers. Is that a fair point?
Yeah, yes.
I'd love to chime in. I'm just super excited to see the curriculum for the service design program. It took me an undergraduate degree in industrial design and an MBA and years of experience to stumble into that. So to see that combination of financial strategy, design, UX, studio, all in one degree is so, so valuable. And something that did not exist when any of us were in school. So it's exciting and refreshing to see all of that in one place. And I think, I think you made the point, Mauricio, of really where that emphasis needs to be is on the mindset, right? And not necessarily just on the tools that, anyone can pick up a tool and fill out the blocks, but if you're not coming at it with that humble and kind of naive mindset, you won't be successful. So I think there's also this beauty, as long as graduates really embrace that humility and don't walk in thinking, well, I have a degree, I can tell leaders what they're going to do, but to come in and ask those questions, that because they haven't been biased by the industry or biased by the corporate world for so long, they're asking those questions that we've all grown to just accept that that's the way it is. And I think that's a tough spot for anyone to be in, both on the receiving and on the giving end. So, I think like any industry, any specialization, coming straight out of school, no, you're not going to have the experience. You're not going to have the scars. That takes, hands-on work, time in the chair, like you said, Colin. But embracing what those new, fresh minds do bring to the table, I think, is what I challenge each and every one of us to do as we do bring on these students and new masters in service design.
So Mark has been suspiciously quiet.
It's
very unusual.
The thinker.
The thinker. No. No, I don't have a lot to chip in on this topic. I think the other panel have said it well.
Yes, you do, Mark. You've been in, if there's someone that knows a lot, is Mark, because you've done 100 interviews.
Yeah, Mark has the scars for sure.
No, seriously. You said it all. Maybe I'll try to chip in on later topics.
Okay, well, do you want to move to the next topic, which is basically kind of like the portfolio piece, the career management, and once you actually get your degree and you have formal education, what do you recommend people should be doing extra that actually they haven't? You've seen the curriculum and you see the classes. What do you feel is missing while you're at school or while you're finishing school so you actually can go and get that job, right?
So, okay, I'll take that answer, that question. A little side note is right now I'm actually collecting, let's say, tips or experiences from people actually hiring service designers, people from across the globe. And I've asked them this question, like, what is your ultimate tip for getting hired as a service designer? This will be an article. It will be out in 2 weeks on servicedesignjobs.com. So there will be people from IBM, Idea Couture, cool companies. And I can sort of speak from my own experience about this. I ran a service design studio for 12 years. I've seen a lot of service design portfolios, and there are a few things that I often found missing, and the people who did had it, they had a sort of competitive advantage. One of the things that often frustrated me is that a lot of design portfolios eventually look the same, especially when people are coming from the same design school. What I always wanted to see in a design portfolio is like, what do you as a person bring to the design process? So how, I understand that you have been able to go through the process to ideate, to do research. I get it. That's what they teach you in school. But what did you as a person, your passion, your interest add to this? And the other thing is a lot of the things that I was seeing were outcomes. And outcomes are important, especially in service design. But when you're just starting out, I'm far more interested in how you got there. I want to know how you made your decisions. What were the deciding moments? Tell me about the process. Tell me about the challenges and the fact that there was an outcome. Yeah, sure. So if when I give tips about portfolios and increasing your chances on how to get hired as a service designer, show your personality, make that really obvious. Don't be humble, but don't be modest about it. And show the process, show critical thinking, show that you can ask good questions. I have more to add in, but yeah.
So let me take it a step back. This was when you're actually out of school, building a portfolio to get in school or get a job, right? But now let's talk about, and Colin probably relate to this very, very keenly with me, is that once you've been doing service design, usually the stuff in your portfolio is secret, right? I mean, I personally can agree that no, everything is under 1, 2, or 3 NDAs. Like the stuff I've done the past 3 years, I can't even tell you the client's name. So how do you go and work for a company and build a portfolio without being able to basically say or show anything? Or if it is sanitized to the highest level, it's almost worthless, right? So what do you recommend to do?
Yeah, so I'm going to steal one of the tips that I got last week, and it's from Doug Paul from IBM, and he phrased it as own your thought leadership. So his basic tip was write on Medium, post stuff on Instagram, show your thinking, and that can be, that doesn't have to include names, but express your perspective on the work you're doing, be critical about it, reflect, and that can be your portfolio. Create YouTube videos, do host events like this.
So Colin, you actually do hire people who are coming to you with portfolios that have, as Marc said, nothing on it, or everything is just blurred, and it is like very little for you to actually ask questions. If you ask a question, they most likely cannot answer your question. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like I like to break the rules, but we do have people, walk us through something in a screen share. We won't record it. Scrub everything if you want, but I'd like to hear your voice track if you can't really lay that out for me. I totally agree with what Marc was saying. Like, if I can find you out there and I can see the way that you think, that's going to do a lot to make me want to spend that time digging in further. If you have the portfolio that looks like everyone else's and you don't really shine out of it, it's a lot harder to take that step. But ultimately, we don't hire people because of their portfolio. We hire them because they're curious, they're humble, they have a good toolkit, they're doggedly trying to be helpful. That's like one of the key qualities that we look for. So really the portfolio is the gateway to that. And totally agree with Marc. If you can show your thinking, I'm going to be willing to have more of a conversation. If a lot of your work is NDA'd, which I would imagine if you're coming out of school, that's not as much. But if you're in a professional scenario, like, look, I can't show most of the work that I've done for the last 18 years. But I will over screen share a little bit with you. So I guess that's kind of how we rectify it.
And that's a big difference with service design. Like if you work in a UX UI, you do something that's actually just public facing, there's no harm in showing a screen, even if it's a mock-up or POC. When it comes down to service design, you are showing a blueprint or a portfolio that actually show problem space, pain points, and basically how a company does business. And you just can't show that.
Here's a kind of a cheat code for all of you. The blueprint one is a really good one. If you can explain to me why you didn't just do a journey map and you went into a blueprint and how that was going to serve the company, and you can speak specifically about their organization and why that matters, like, sold. Like, that's the kind of thinking I need.
That's one thing. Reinforcing what Colin and Marc mentioned. So the process is important, right? We also talk a lot with companies and how they hired, what they are looking for. And even our students, when they work on a SCAD Pro project, most of the SCAD Pro project, they have a 2-year NDA agreement, right? Done with one of the big companies. Basically, they can only mention, I worked with this brand. But the point we make always is like, show how you go about. What is your mindset? How do you go, how do you make decisions? For instance, how do you treat data, right? This is a super important aspect today. Data is not all the same. We work at least with 3 different sets of data. Can you show that you know the difference between them? What types of data? How can you collect? This is a discussion that is very, at least, useful when someone is hiring, sees that especially a junior knows how to deal with data and data through people, the interaction with humans. So the process definitely is the main. So process / mindset would be the main, and again, the portfolio would be just an excuse to have this conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the portfolio.
The next question is, I guess, once everybody you have a degree, you have a portfolio. Now the question for the whole panel is like, what differentiates you on the marketplace? What's going to make you different? What's going to make you unique? We talk about like X factors or soft skills. I'm sure Jennifer and Colin probably would have a way in this, but like, I'm going to try to give about 10 minutes we have a lot of questions coming through the chat room. So if you could just, the four of you, tell me what you think would make you special, different on a marketplace when you're going looking for a job. Assuming you went to the same school, assuming you have 30 people coming out of SCAD every year, and they basically have the same formal training. They have a very similar portfolio, obviously. Why would I hire this one and not that one? Let's start with Jennifer.
That's a great question. I think for me, one of the big things is looking at kind of diversity of thought and kind of personality that comes out through your resume, through your online presence, through your portfolio, building on what was just talked about around the specific portfolio itself. Many of the people I've hired, I've, looked at their portfolio, looked at their resume, but really that deciding factor is when I talk to them and kind of ask them those curious questions and start to dig into how their mind works. And, especially for grads, just entering the market, be prepared to not only talk about your portfolio, but also, live project work is becoming much more popular in the interview process. So you might be given a challenge and it's really about your mindset, not about the solution that you come up with at the end of that. But that's just a way that we're seeing a lot of employers start to dig into that personality and mindset methodology piece that we're talking so much about.
Great. Colin, do you want to add to this?
I mean, I think Jennifer pretty much nailed it. We're blessed in this industry to have something like a portfolio that shows that someone has the skill sets, and it's a piece that a lot of people with a design background put a lot of care and curation into. It's a lot of work. On the more technical set side of people, they got to get on a whiteboard and get, tested out to see if they can do things. That portfolio is a gateway, and it truly is about the person that's behind it. I guess the one thing I would add to what Jennifer says is that I'm always interested, especially for junior folks and outside of just the portfolio and the art degree. I look for a certain amount of maturity, and that might be because I'm in professional services in a consulting bent environment, but I want to know how you earn trust with people. And Jennifer even talked about creating safe spaces. The places where service design are best are in places where driven creative people have the opportunity to raise their own career ceilings, and that doesn't happen by adding a bunch of ego to the mix. So I love hearing how folks like have dealt with things in their life that required a lot of humility and growth. I really like hearing about times that you failed and how you learned from that. So it doesn't all need to be specific field experience. To Jennifer's point, it's a mindset, how you think.
Sure. Mark, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, maybe one thing, maybe two things. One, I think bringing in, like, if we go back to the T-shaped people, which I still do believe in, your deep expertise is the thing that can make you unique. If you like writing, bring that in. It's very useful in any context, and especially in a service design context. If you like flying micro drones like I do, that might be something that could be useful in some way in your service design project. Hold on. And one other thing that I wanted to add is, like, show that you actually have improved the service. And I'm really interested in folks that have worked in a service environment where they've worked in a restaurant or something like that, and that they understand what it means to deliver a service and what it means to actually come up with improvements. So if you can show me that, no matter how small it is, no matter if it's voluntary work or something like that, that gives me the confidence that you actually understand what services are about.
Perfect.
Okay. Mauricio? And then we'll just jump into some questions.
Yeah, I just, can I share, I have some, I'm sharing a link. We had students as capstone project last quarter, Jonathan Poitz, Alessio Rapaglia, Andrea Torres, and they developed a poster. Can I share the screen for 1 second?
Sure.
Just so this is the poster that they developed, how to get a job, and the maze that you have to go through. And what is interesting, that the portfolio is the excuse, the physical evidence, if you can call it, of the whole process of networking, talking to people, figuring out what to do, how to interview them. So they didn't, and at some point I suggested them, don't make this simple, make very complex and winding, to show how actually complex it is to get a job in service design. But there is a way, there's a path, and I was very, let's say, proud of the thoroughness, the complexity, and at the same time the useful guidance that they were able to offer to new both MFA and VFA that want to get into this world.
If you don't mind sharing this to the chat, we can always make it available to everybody after.
I shared the link.
Okay, cool. So if you guys are okay with now, we are going to jump to the Q&A. So for the past 45 minutes, people have been extremely active on the chat room, and we have some questions to ask you. So I'm going to turn over to, I think it may be Christopher or Brandon or Brenda, who are going to ask questions specifically to either one of you, and maybe you guys can both tag team into answering one question, but we're going to be listening to what you guys have to say.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, Christopher or myself or Brenda will be fine. I'll kick it off, get things started. So far, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Really appreciate you guys joining, and the content is fantastic. And we've got over 150 people that have stuck on so far, because what you're sharing is of such great content. The first question was for Mark. specifically, but this is open for anyone. Please give an example of a service design vocabulary change.
Yeah, I think there was, I noted two things down. Was a question about the transition from a manufacturing-oriented vocabulary towards what I would call a more service-oriented vocabulary. There are a lot of things that we can add there, but just think about the word delivery. Like, that stems from a manufacturing mindset. You create something, you put it on the shelf, and then you deliver it. Like services, I think words like orchestrating, staging, are much more appropriate in that kind of context. It's actually, I think it's counterproductive to use words like deliver or implement services, because that brings you into a mode where you run into all kinds of trouble. And yeah, it's going to be fun to expand that vocabulary. And I would love, if people have ideas, let me know, because I think we really need to change our language around services and service design.
I completely, just real quick, completely agree with that. I think delivery means a thing. Service design needs to have a little bit more like white space around it than something as tight as delivery. And leaning into that is super important, because it does confuse people in the industry.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Awesome, thank you. Is there more? This one, next, a few from Mauricio. There was an exclamation about the high tuition. And so what gives this a competitive edge over more affordable international programs?
Oh my God, this is a tough question. SCAD is known to provide a thorough connection with companies, and I would not be cynical to say that it's not expensive, but I don't know. Yeah, I completely understand the question,
yeah.
But we provide value, and this is both myself and the program and all SCAD. We know that we're not among the cheapest schools, but we work really hard to provide
So the value is there. It's not cheap.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
valuable. Is what you're saying.
And I want to chime in on that too. So as a SCAD student, I've obviously kind of bought into the value of SCAD myself. So, you know, my peers in my courses, I'm learning just as much from them as I am from the professors, because of just the rigor that's put into selecting students to go into the SCAD programs. And I'm fortunate enough that my program is actually online and global. And so in real time, having those global perspectives, but even, you know, in person on campus, just that global mindset and the different approaches and different histories of design all brought together has been really, really impressive to me. And certainly also, as you know, as a hiring manager, thinking about just there's a lot of value to the SCAD brand that's undeniable, that because of the rigor that goes into the professors and the students, that education is, you know, I've seen it be really, really strong and valuable.
Yeah, and as we know here in the US, there really are not a lot of formal service design programs. SCAD definitely is top of mind. I think there's a couple of them, like maybe Parson and Carnegie Mellon. And internationally, I'm sure there are more programs. I think there's one in Spain as well, but we can't really focus on those programs. But in the US, there really are not a lot of, you know, options for you to learn service design at a formal level.
Yeah.
So the next question was, I know in the midst of everything we're going through, my service design class is moving totally online. The one I teach at SMU. Does SCAD or any other programs that the panel's aware of, are they moving towards an online or remote option for the certificates or degrees?
Yeah, talking about SCAD, we moved everything online, right? We did it fairly soon, and we will stay online until the science tells us to change. And this is an aspect that I think would be interesting to just highlight. Even for companies, right? We're seeing, I'm from Brazil, I'm seeing what a non-scientific approach of a situation, complex situation like this is causing to my country. We've seen here in the US how quote unquote uneducated approach to complex context is causing to all of us. So I'm very proud at this moment to be teaching and introducing my students to a more rigorous scientific approach to this complex situation, right? And I'm really, really hopeful that companies also will move towards a more scientific-based approach. And scientific, it's not boring, right? It's not boring. It's not slow. It's scientific. I know what I'm doing. I know how much, and it's humbling, right? I'll solve because I'll solve. No, there are things that you need to know better, right? So, and in this very moment, I'm really, really stressing with students, like, be knowledgeable. You need to know the best knowledge. You need to have the best knowledge available for the specific situation you face. Oh, I'm doer. I am a doer. I don't care. I'm just, no. It's, there's no such a thing as a
Thank
doer.
you. That's really helpful.
The best knowledge is save lives and save business. So that was my rant or my vent this weekend on LinkedIn. And I'm kind of tired of this. Oh, no, yeah. The knowledge doesn't matter. Let's do it. No, it causes death. So
we have about 5 minutes left. Mauricio, sorry.
I'm still emotional with this.
Thank you. But what you're saying leads into the next question. This is for the whole panel as well. What are the qualities that make for a successful service design student? And then how does that transition into professional work? So what are you looking for in your students? How can I be the best student so I can be the best professional?
Yeah, you're dealing with people, right? And complex system, the phenomenological experience of service, that a service for someone can be good, for someone else can be awful. Dealing, and as Marc mentioned, the critical thinking, like, can I assess this more unbiased way? How can I build bridges between these two different perceptions? So critical thinking is something, and critical thinking, having the access to the best available knowledge, and know that this is important, I guess, would be a factor you see.
Jennifer, what about you? What's your take on that?
I think it goes back to what I said about hiring service designers. It's about your mindset, your willingness to learn, your curiosity, that, there are some tangible skills that certainly are measured. So you're looking at creativity. And so what kind of work have you done program to demonstrate that? But again, just going back to that ability to show you your mindset and approach there in a unique way. It's just, at a different phase in your career, but similar qualities.
Awesome. Next question, Marc, specifically, can you think of any good examples of a portfolio for a service designer? Have you seen them? Do you have links to them?
Yeah, that's actually a question I get a lot, and I'll do my best to share more online. I don't have any specific things that I can show publicly. The best portfolios I've seen is, like I said, portfolios that actually tell a story rather than showing the outcome. Like, they tell me they take me onto a story. They show me as if I was there. And just to also reiterate what the other guests on the panel already said, don't focus too much on the portfolio. Like as a document, you know, you can do it in a video, you can do it in a Medium post. Make sure that you have stories to share. So no, I don't have a portfolio that I can share, but I will start collecting them, and they will be in different shapes and formats.
Thank you. And if the rest of the panel, you know, Jennifer, Colin, Mauricio, Greg, even, if there are, we can always post those later on the YouTube channel where this is posted. We can have supporting links, things like that. We always try to support that. So even if we didn't get to it here in the video, if we do run across some, and there's something amazing like that document Mauricio shared with us, we can share that there as well. We've got basically a minute left. I'd like to open it up to Colin. Final comments there for our panel. Anything spark your interest that you wanted to share?
Just on service design in general, I think I'm a true believer that, you know, this is the moment we've all been preparing for, and there's truly no market report out there. There's nothing that's going to give our customers the data that they want. There's going to be a lot of people trying to sell them the right answer, but every organization really needs to reset and refocus their understanding on their customers, on what they provide, because what you expected from your personas and from the people that you serve a couple of months ago is different now, invariably. So I believe in what everyone here is doing. I love that there are educational facilities to do it. I've had to, you know, work my way through a lot of problems not coming up with that. And so I really look forward to an empathetic new crop of service designers coming into the industry.
And I guess we can safely say that now, based on the amount of questions and activity we've seen on the chat room, we're probably going to have to do this again. So let us take some time and kind of look at the question we asked in the chat room. I really want to thank you, all of you guys, Mauricio, Marc, Jennifer, Colin. Thank you so much for what you've said today. This stuff doesn't belong in textbook, and we talk about the big formal versus informal education. This is the stuff that people ask. This is the stuff that people crave to know, because they come to us all the time. How do I do this? How can I do that? And it was really great to hear from you guys to tell us exactly what they should be doing, not waste time reading another book, right? Nothing against books, but once you've read 5, 6, 7, 8 books, now it's time for you to do something else. And this is really crucial. And I want to thank you, all of you, to actually just helping us kind of like give a new dimension to the service design learning. Thank you so much, all 4 of you. I will send you all the questions. Some questions going to be specifically for all of you. So I have some questions for Jennifer and Marc, and we'll send those to you. Thank you so much. We'll see you, I believe, next week. Let me see. Yes, I think that we are going to have different events on the 12th, talking more specifically about the COVID-19 and the higher level, the Black Swan events. We're going to have some discussion about how service design can help prepare for the unexpected. And of course, we'll have some 3 Master of Service Design. Adam is going to be on the 19th, talking about facilitation, and Jim about mapping experiences, and Andy about high-level service design. How do you sell service design, and how do you convince people for a buy-in? So thank you so much for all of you guys. If you have any questions for the panel, let us know. I will try to forward those to them. Again, thank you so much, Mauricio, Marc, Colin, and Jennifer. Thank you so much for your participation. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
See ya. Stay safe. Bye. Stay home.